indicate different time periods. You have the simple present, past, and future. Simple past, I was. Simple present, I am. Simple future, I will be. Or with a different form of verb that isn't so irregular, you could have past, I walked, and present, I walk, and future, I will walk. We are not focusing on that today. We are focusing on complex verb tenses. Now, I am really just explaining how you form them, not their theory when they're used at this point. So if they don't make total sense, that's okay for right now, except for how to form them. All right, so we have three groups of tenses. The perfect tenses are any verb tenses that use have. All right, they're any verb tenses that use have or has or had, any form of have as a helping verb. Right? Perfect tenses use have as a helping verb. Progressive tenses use be plus a present participle that ends in ing. Progressive tenses use be plus ing. Perfect tenses use have plus a past participle, which I didn't say before. And the perfect progressive tenses, use have, a form of it, plus the past participle been, plus the present participle of a verb will end in ing. All right, so that sounds confusing. It's a lot of stuff to look at all of a sudden. But this is what it looks like. For the perfect tenses, you can have three forms: the past, the present, or the future. The past will always have your helping verb be had. The form of have that you have is had. And the present will always be has or have, right? And the future helping verb will have. So past is had, present is has or have, and the future is will have. And then you need a past participle, all right? If it was the verb be, it would be been. She had been, she has been, she will have been. But I'm just using the verb walk here, okay? All right, so those are the perfect tenses. The progressive tenses use be plus ing, so we could have past, present, or future progressive, just like with the perfect tenses. And we have always have a form of be, so in the past it's I was. And if it were plural, it would be they were, right? And in the present, it's I am. And if it's plural, they are, right? You are. And in the future, it's I will be, they will be. That stays the same. You know, this verb is very irregular, so it changes by subject from singular to plural. So I'm just showing you the singular right here, but plural would be you were, they were, and I am could be you are, they are. Okay, so there are different forms, but basically that's what it's like. Why do we use the progressive tenses? It's to emphasize something over a period of time happening. Right? So I was walking when I was it's almost like you can say in the process of with it. If you can say in the process of, you have some form of a progressive tense. Right? Perfect progressive tenses. They are a form, I already told you the formula. So now, the past always has to have had, just like the perfect tenses. But now you have been plus a present participle. The present always has or have, plus been, plus a present participle. And the future is always going to have will have, that will not change. So this form is, you'll always have to have will have been, and then a present participle. Right? So when do you use these more complex verb tenses? The perfect tenses are used to show the past shows a time in the past before another time in the past. So it's called the far past, right? And so you need two times in your sentence, like two time periods happening. The present perfect or present perfect progressive. It's going to show you something that happened in the past is still happening now and will probably continue into the future. And the future perfect needs two time periods with it too. It's to distinguish two different times. That's why we use these complex perfect tenses. The emphatic. All that means is emphasizing. In other languages, oftentimes they will say me, I, do this. In like Latin-based languages, like French, we don't do that. We just, we use I do talk a lot, you know, so we use a helping verb. I did, so the past emphatic and the present emphatic are a little different. You know, the past would be did, right, plus a verb. The present is do or does plus a verb. So that's the emphatic. That's very simple, all right? So I'm not going to say anything more about it. I don't want to run out of time in this video. The passive voice. This you do need to know a lot in AP English. You want to avoid it because it's really not a good formulation, because the agent of action should be first as your subject, and in passive voice it is not. All right, so let's look at that. What is the formula? So you have, basically the formula is a form of be plus a past participle, right? A form of be plus a past participle. So here's my form of be, here's the past participle. But look at, the direct object is in the subject position. The car isn't stealing anything, right? So we're not naming who stole it unless we put a prepositional phrase on there. And it really should be, the terrorist stole my car, right? And that's much clearer, and it's unnecessary to be so wordy. So we avoid the passive voice if we can, right? Sometimes we don't know the agent of action that's perpetrating the action, so we kind of have to use it. All right? So that's the passive voice. The active voice is that terrorist stole. Subject, verb, and maybe a complement, a direct object. But look, we have the direct object and then a form of be plus a past participle. That's the passive voice. So these will make, and I have one more thing to teach you, mood. All right, so let's look at that. Okay, mood. Mood, we have three moods in English: the indicative mood, the imperative mood, and the subjunctive mood. In Latin-based languages, this is used a lot. It's used for politeness or wishes or desires. We don't use it in English hardly ever, but there are two forms of it, and we do use it sometimes. And so I want to back up before I talk about this. The indicative mood is just declarative statements. That almost everything we speak is in the indicative mood. I went to school, whatever. That's an example sentence of the indicative mood. But if I say do your homework, that is not the indicative mood, that's the imperative mood, all right? And you're aware of that. But the subjunctive mood is our third mood, and in the present, it occurs when you have some desire or wish, and then you have a that clause, a subordinate clause. And then the form of the verb be doesn't, the be does not get conjugated. It stays in its infinitive form. My hope is, and then see I have a subordinate clause, that you be happy. I hope, my wish is that you all succeed in English, and succeed on the AP exam in May. My wish is that you all succeed. Now, when I use a form of another verb instead of be, you can't tell that I'm not conjugating it, but it's still the subjunctive mood, all right? It's just that if you have an irregular verb like be that changes its form all the time with different subjects and so on, then you can tell that it is not changing, it stays in the infinitive. So my hope is that you succeed on the exam. See, it's still subjunctive. I still have all this going on, but you can't tell that there's no difference in form for succeed from the infinitive to when I conjugate it and the second person you. All right, but So here's another example. I wish that you all be successful. Sounds very awkward. That's the present subjunctive. Right? But you probably have heard it before. The past subjunctive is used for hypothetical situations, right? Things that are contrary to fact, improbable occurrences, so on. If Barney were president, if I were president. So we keep, the form of be stays as were. Because normally we would say Barney would be conjugated with be, would be Barney was president. But we stay in the plural, right? If I were you. That's the subjunctive mood. That's all there is to it. Now, let's look at some examples on some worksheets that are already completed, right? So that might help you. So I'll make that a little larger. All right. So they want us to put this verb, study, in the past progressive. So I know I have to have a form of be, and I have to put it in the past for this subject. Conductor was studying. Means in the process of studying over a period of time. Now I have many scientists. I have the verb be. I want it in the present emphatic. I want some sort of helping verb of do. All right. So many scientists do believe, right? So that's the present emphatic. Hawthorne actually a scarlet letter like the one in the novel. I want the past emphatic. I want the past of the verb do. Did, find. So I don't, the verb that follows the helping verb kind of stays in its infinitive form. It doesn't change. Present progressive. So just look at the formula. I want a form of be plus I want this to have be a present participle. Isaac Asimov is teaching. Future, okay, now we're getting into more complex, more lengthy verb phrases. By midnight, Vera, and then I would have the verb write. I want the future perfect progressive. Future will have will, perfect will have, progressive will have, in the more complex, well, when it's linked with the perfects, we'll have been plus the present participle. So by midnight, see, I have two time periods. By this point later on, by this point, Vera will have been writing for 3 straight days. See, I have 2 times. That's why I need this more complex tense. Will have been writing. So I have a 4-word verb phrase. Right? Present perfect progressive. So present perfect is always have or has. In this case, Liza has. And if it's a different subject, it would be have, maybe. They have been reading. But Liza's singular. And then present perfect progressive. So present will have this, and present perfect will have this, and progressive will have, when it's linked with the perfect, will have been plus a present participle. All right. Let's just go to the regular progressives. That's more simple. Past progressive, I need some form of be in the past that goes with orchids. Orchids is plural, so were growing. Right? I'm going to run out of time, so I better go on to another example, another verb focus. So 1 second. Not too much time here, but let's look at something else. So, this really just means wish or desire. Her parents recommend, then I have for subjunctive mood, I have my that clause and my verb stays in the infinitive. Wish or desire, something has a little more emotion in it. It is essential that we be. So be stays in its infinitive form. I know this doesn't sound like a desire or a wish, but it constitutes one. And this is the past subjunctive, if I were you. We know that. I wish you were here.